gentlemen, be a rosebud!
Behold! The power of magnetism! What would your finishing maneuver be called?
The circumcision.
Follow the buzzers!
Hello everyone and welcome to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast, the wrestling podcast where we review every segment of Raw and give you guys the wrestling news of the week. My name, your host, is Turbo Tony. We're here with a man hailing from Hollywood, California, the bizarre one, Matt Dust. There you go. Was that return to form from my debacle last week in terms of...
Yeah, that's fine. I'll accept that one.
That's fine. How are you doing this week?
Yeah, pretty good.
That's good. I always wonder that whenever we do that intro, because I actually listen to a few of our podcasts, and very rarely I actually reference you as your actual name, so people might randomly are just tacking
true.
Matt onto random wrestlers. So no, it's Matt Marson to everyone. I think your name is the only one that comes up over when I finish doing the
Once
images.
you start picturing,
Exactly.
as far as anyone else is concerned, it's just me.
I feel like the rubber stamp put over my name or something. That's always happens. Like with Mo in Simpsons. Is it Mo? I don't know, but he always gets his face like put a sticker on or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're new to the podcast, guys, as I said there before, we review every segment of Raw and we review TNA. And if Matt manages to catch NXT, which is increasingly hard to do so, and we review that as well, and we give you the wrestling news of the week. We also have a Superstar Spotlight this week. You guys have got quite like the Superstar Spotlights. We've got it here on Santino Marella. We're going to do our little talk about him because he's part of the news as well. But we thought it was quite apt, considering the news surrounding Mr. Marella this week. And his, albeit brief stint in WWE, but has a few very interesting...
Brief?
Well, he's... he would definitely want it to be longer, shall we say. I think that's probably about
9 years isn't necessarily a brief stint.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, there's a few little interesting controversies that surround him, and obviously a few cool moments that we remember him for, so we'll go through that as well. And we've got 2 TNA shows to actually get through this week because they released a pay-per-view this week, but I'll get into that as well as we go forward. So, let's get straight into the news. We've got lots and lots of news to get through this week. Some interesting, some important, some hilarious. So we'll get into that. First of all, we'll actually get into that main thing. We're talking about Santino Marella. Santino Marella has, albeit in a very subtle way, he's called quits on his career. He's retired from in-ring action. He announced this during a live show in Canada, so it wasn't even referenced on the Raw before, and I guess it will be referenced this week. But in a live show in Canada, he came out, he cut a promo saying that one of the things that he always wished that he could have been done was to be announced as hailing from Canada, because that's actually where he's from. He's not Italian.
Yep.
And he said that he would like to continue in a non-wrestling role, so like a general manager or a manager for someone, something along those lines.
That or another backstage guy.
Yeah, I get the feeling that maybe he still wants to be on the show, just not bumping around and taking. The reason why he's called it quits is much like the way Edge did. He's taken too many hits to his neck, and he has to go and get his neck sorted out. And I think this is his 3rd surgery or something along those lines that he needs on his neck. I think that's probably the right time to call it quits. You don't want to do it so much. Like Edge did, he was on the borderline of ending up not being able to walk for the rest of his life. So I think, when it's put in black and white terms as that.
Yeah, I mean, rather than sort of just no, I can do one more, I can keep going, he's sort of just taking that sort of no, I will stop.
Yeah, and then you end up like the Dynamite Kid in England in a wheelchair, not being able to walk around for the rest of your life. Now, obviously that's a different thing, but still, you don't want to be doing that. You want to look out for your health. There is a life after wrestling, as much as some diehard fans don't like to believe so, but there is. You look at Austin; he hasn't stepped foot into a ring in a very long time. He's made a very good career out of himself, even though he was the biggest wrestlers. Yeah, and acting and stuff like that. So you got to look after yourself, make sure everything's fine. So I completely agree with him doing this, and I do expect something to happen on Raw. They won't let this just go by, without anything going along those lines. But we're going to do our Superstar Spotlight on Santino, and there's a few interesting notes to call it there. In regards to that, but this leaves Emma in a bit of even more limbo. Thinking of Emma, considering all this stuff that happened last week with her, and now she was teamed with, the only reason she was on TV for a little while was because they were teamed together. So we'll see how that goes forward from there. Maybe Emma doesn't get seen on TV for a while now. Quite possible.
Well, we spoke last week. Probably won't be on TV for a while.
Yeah, I fully
There
agree.
is.
So today, big news dropped because WWE are doing the live tours. You know, they're actually in Japan at the moment, and they we broke this story a while back that international and obviously Japanese star Kenta was in talks with WWE. WWE have announced today that they have officially signed him. He's going to NXT. It's all done. It's all over their Facebook. They've all spelled in this as the next big thing. Remember the last time that they did a lot of stuff like this was Sin Cara, which isn't exactly a great foreboding, towards all this. But,
it doesn't sit well, does it?
No, but I mean, at least he's going to NXT now. This is one guy that doesn't need to be in developmental, but I actually kind of agree. I mean, it gives him NXT. You can't really count as developmental yet; it's the lower leagues, but he can go there and wrestle with a lot of guys that are going to be brought up along with him, and that way he's going to be more than ready for the main roster. So to that degree, I kind of agree that it's probably the right place to put him.
Do you know what? I'd quite like to see a Sami Zayn Kenta match.
Isn't that tasty? That is, I would have plenty of that. I would gladly give my money for a match like that. In fact, there's a lot of people I'd like to see Kenta work with. He's a very, very talented wrestler. And if the rumours are true that the likes of him and Prince Devitt are coming to WWE, then this is a match made.
Could get very interesting.
Yeah. Internet heaven match, I think, is probably the right tagline for that. But yeah, it's done. The ink is dried and he's officially signed and they're parading him around. Me and Matt next week I thought would be a pretty good and somewhat controversial topic that we're going to run next week is, can Kenta or any star that comes from Japan actually really get over in as a full main roster top guy in WWE? Because you look at their track record, it isn't exactly stellar with Japanese and Mexican talents, bar Rey Mysterio, shall we say. So we're going to talk about that next week.
Well, Rey Mysterio's he's American within a Mexican style.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that next week in more reference. Yeah. I think, and this is somewhat controversial as well, getting into the start of this podcast, we're talking about a lot already, but I actually think if Eddie hadn't died, Rey wouldn't have been given the belt. That's my personal opinion. But I
kind of agree with you there, but that's for another day.
That's for another day. We'll talk about that in great length next week. I'm actually really looking forward to that conversation because it's one of those things that me and Matt, like, we're not racist by any means, but we look at the history of WWE and they have not booked international talent that well. And you can look back as far as the likes of Sin Cara now. You kind of force their hand, but still, we'll look back on that. So, into more interesting news. Now, this isn't something set down, and I don't want to put this this is definitely happening, but I wanted to add it in the news regardless because it happened. And a lot of people have been talking about it. Sting has posted on his Twitter account the date of the 14th of the 7th, which is 2 days away, which happens to be Monday night.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are saying that he's going to be debuting this Monday on Raw. I'm not going to say anything. We said beforehand that here on this podcast, until he shows up and he's there and they say the word Sting is in WWE, I'm not going to say he's going to show up, because this has been a saga that's gone on for way too long. The amount of times in the last 5 years we've had rumours being spouted around. Sting has officially joined WWE, signed the contract, and he shows up on TNA the next week. It's made me a little bit cynical on the matter, but interesting nonetheless. Maybe imagine now if nothing happens on the 14th. That would be a real big
yeah.
Shit,
just like
yeah,
nothing.
Or one fan put it. I think I was just looking through some memes on the Facebook as they come up, and one person said, "What would happen if Damien Sandow came out as Sting and trolled everyone?" Man,
the hate, the hate.
So yeah, interesting anyway. We're going to keep a lookout for him obviously on Raw and see if anything happens along those lines. Maybe that guy that was so sad the night after WrestleMania dressed in his Sting mask can finally have a smile on his face because he looked very melancholy when Sting never debuted on that night after WrestleMania. Moving on now, this is very interesting. WWE obviously have released a lot of people recently. Like Josh Matthews, huge superstars that have been dropped like Drew McIntyre, Jinder Mahal.
It's huge superstars.
Well, a huge amount of superstars.
Yeah, there we go. We'll go with that.
And they've been cutting their books for a while. This is interesting because this isn't them releasing anyone, but it's quite relative to the financial issues that WWE seem to be having, at very least recently, and along with the network and stuff like that. So the royalty checks and the bonus checks were released out to the talent this week.
Yeah.
And apparently, according to a lot of people, they are quite upset at the lack of money that they received from those royalty checks. So what you may be thinking of is that this is coming up to the video game season, and the talent would normally get a decent payday from it, and apparently they got a lot less than they were expecting in regards to that. Another thing as well is that WWE have enforced new fines. Now this includes that wrestlers must now dress professionally if seen in public. So if they're going out to the shops and it's likely they're going to be seen in public, they have to dress somewhat professionally, in regards to those lines. Which I don't think is too much of an issue, really. I don't see anyone going out.
I don't think it's such a problem.
No. And they will also be fined if they are a single minute late to any show. Which I think it should be mandatory anyway. But that's just the way I run business, I guess. I was a manager for a while, so that's just the way that I roll, I think is probably the best way to put it.
That's it. I mean, there's the one thing is sort of you can't just like out of nowhere, just like, hi guys, like you're late, dude.
Yeah. That's just the way I look at it. Now some people,
especially it's like, I think we're talking to this on like a sort of a more sort of indie circuit sort of style of things. But it's like if you turn up too late, then it's like you haven't done your share of putting up the ring. Yeah. A lot of people aren't going to be very happy with you.
I think the reason why you and me would say this as well, obviously we've been in that case before. In fact, we've been bollocked for not putting a ring up quick enough. I will openly admit that. But I was a manager in where I used to work. You deal with a lot of this side where you work now. So I think that anyone that's in that position, that just seems perfectly feasible to me. If you're late, you pay the price. That's it. That's the way I look at it. Other people might be thinking, that's extortion, they're really clamping down the rules, but it's professionalism. If you're not professional, then you will deal with the consequences. That's what I would say anyway. But we all know the wrestling industry isn't exactly the same, but still, it looks like WWE are going to be dropping the hammer on these guys and making sure that if they go out of line, then they're going to be losing a lot of money. Now, it was also said as well that the general consensus backstage is that no one's really going to bitch about these changes. No one's in a position to do so. So, as much as wrestlers might go, Morales drops or anything, they're not really going to do that much about it. So, which just seems, a little bit of a shame. If you really got an issue, then bring it up. But if you had an issue of pay back in the Monday Night Wars, then you'd go to WCW, and that's what made the whole era so interesting. That you had.
That's it. You could jump ship, and WCW Russo would be there, just like, yes, 100 times yes, come to us.
We'll pay you 10 times more than you had for someone that's a mid-carder and sort of thing.
That's it.
So yeah, interesting stuff. We'll be talking about Mr. Russo and the Monday Night Wars a little bit later in our Raw review, because they were involved in a manner, shall we say?
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. What do you think about that? Do you think that this is part of it, or do you think WWE just decided to tighten the handle a little bit more, or do you think this is more money based?
I think it's a handle more than anything else. I couldn't put this down as to just like as just a way of WWE just scoring extra money.
There wouldn't be that much money to be made from this, to be honest.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess if they're implementing a sort of like, you turn up late, you're going to get fined, and then there is a lateness issue amongst the roster.
Yeah. I mean, my idea is that if you're late, like as you said, if you're late to a show, then you're making yourself unreliable. And I can guarantee you, for all the times that John Cena's been there, and I know the guy's a workhorse, and we may not be too keen on Cena. I very much doubt he's been late for many, if not any, of his shows that he's been to. That's been outside of that's been in his control. So the more you're punctual, the better you can be called upon. So, but the video game check is interesting though, because that is different, and wrestlers are used to that. Obviously, the game hasn't launched, but still interesting that WWE aren't. They're not giving as much out, shall we say, until they get their fair share. Moving on to a bit more interesting news. Interesting news. Oh, this is hilarious. I talked to you this, Matt, before we came on, because I just wanted to make sure that you were ready for this. A man who is incarcerated.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going now.
Yeah.
By the name of Christopher Donnelly. I won't reference his name any further because I don't like glorifying these morons, but still. He attempted to sue Natalia this week, funnily enough. He claimed in this lawsuit that he was mentally and physically damaged by her saying that she was his dominatrix for several years. Okay, I'm trying not to laugh here. And apparently she forced him to prostitute himself out. He also claims that she aborted his baby. Yes.
Yeah, I don't.
I claim that Mr. whatever his name is, I don't want to say his name, just his lawsuit would have worked if he just believed. That's the way it is. So
Yeah, completely.
yeah, this is obviously just moronic. This is just some guy who's just doing this for no reason. He just thinks it's, he's obviously in there for a reason. The judge threw this lawsuit out because the lawsuit was just badly made, and it's just idiotic.
It's just because it was sheer idiocy.
Yeah, it is, to be honest. The only reason I added this in is, like I said, this isn't really news. It's just funny. It's just that sometimes you'll get a story like this comes up, and it's just quite hilarious. It really is. And the very idea that the internet community got around this and said that she obviously put him in the heart dungeon, being the dominatrix.
Yeah.
Just works on many levels. So if I was Natalia, I'd probably have a little laugh about this and realise that this guy maybe has a little bit of an obsession. He's claiming that he's going to go to the papers, Randy Orton style, if it's not taken seriously. But obviously no one's going to take him seriously.
But exactly. It's not being taken seriously, so...
Yeah. And let's face it, I don't think there's a lot of guys out there that wouldn't really mind being Natalia being their dominatrix, shall we say. That would be quite interesting. So there's our news for the week. As always, there are other news, but they're the most interesting and ones that we could get a good laugh about, especially at the end anyway. Not as much as the laugh as Vince Russo wanted to book Bray Wyatt, but still, funny regardless.
Yeah. Don't remind me of that.
Talking of Russo, actually, we're going to talk about it a little bit later because he was referenced, but he was on the Austin podcast. I can only listen. I've never once actually stopped watching it. One of these, I watched like the Jericho, JR, and the Austin podcast. All of them are good for their own reasons. I listen to everyone every now and then. But he had an interview with Vince Russo. I was 20 minutes in. I had to stop. Just because Russo, one, he's got an accent that's fucking annoying, and two, he's just talking out of his arse, and you can tell that he's defending himself against all these people and trying to get Austin on his side about all these arguments that he has on Twitter, because he's in constantly arguing with people on Twitter, and I just had to stop. I was like, I don't want any part of this. It's just bad. So yeah,
no more.
That's my thoughts on that. If you really want to, and you can report back to us about that podcast, it's actually a two-parter, so good luck with that.
I don't want to.
2 hours of Russo trying to absolve himself for his many issues. So there we are. TNA this week. We'll talk quickly about TNA before we get to our main bulk of the show, which is Monday Night Raw. Now, we said before that TNA has had a horrendous 4 weeks, but that's past now. TNA are on the rise. They've done pretty well. This show was okay. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't great either, to be honest. Their Impact show. So, a few noteworthy segments, okay? One that was really, really bad. Brittany, you don't know who she is, Matt, because you haven't watched TNA recently. But she has a segment where she's kind of doing the Mickie James, Trish Stratus thing, where she's just adores Madison Rayne, as if she's the legendary Madison Rayne, wants to be her, wants to be a tag team partner all the time, and then in this segment she decides that she should never meet her heroes, and then proceeds to beat her up, so she's done the turn. I don't want to go too much into what actually happened in this segment, but Brittany deserves a call up to WWE, honestly. She really does. As in, that's a negative thing. She deserves on their title divas for acting this bad. It was horrendous.
Oh, really? Just couldn't buy into it.
You were confused there, Matt, weren't you? What? What's he talking about?
What? No.
There's the classic Tony swerve for you right there. So, yeah, it was just really, really bad. She acted really, really bad, and this whole segment was just really awkward is the word for it. The beatdown, at least, was okay. But yeah, that wasn't the best thing that the Knockouts did on this show, because Gail Kim and Angelina Love had a pretty decent match in which Gail Kim won the Knockouts title. So we have a new Knockouts champion. Yep. This continues the run of titles changing hands on these shows. And TNA had to kind of go all out. I don't have too much of an issue with them changing titles here and there, as long as they don't make it too much of a habit going forward, that every week we have a title change. Not exactly too great. One thing I will say about Gail Kim is that she is so impressive in the ring. It boggles me that WWE just let this woman go twice.
Yeah.
She's so good in the ring. She really is, like, very, very talented. One of the best out there, I would say. And she's very, very enjoyable. And Angelina Love did a bit as well, along those lines. And the referee that they have seduced the beautiful people was removed from this match by Kurt Angle, so he was all over the show. Not nearly as annoying as MVP, but that's fine. Obviously, can't get much more annoying than MVP was when he was in charge. Lashley retains the heavyweight belt. There was a segment with EY and Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode is going to be like the new face that's going to be taking over and challenging Lashley, but EY had his rematch for the belt. What I don't like about EY recently is that he's having these segments where he's doubting himself, right? He's like, Lashley, I've been thinking about it. He's beaten me 3 times. Look at the size of him. He's massive. And then Bobby Roode says a little bit of a speech that's about a minute long, and suddenly EY realizes that he can beat him. It just comes off really cool. And they
so
do.
Suddenly EY is now the new Bo Dallas.
No, right, it's not so much that. He's just like, he just goes, he like turns instantly and it seems really fake. He's just like, oh, I can't beat him, and then suddenly he's like, yeah, I can do it. I can beat him. I got tons of heart. And it's like, okay, just 2 seconds ago you didn't even think you could take a poo without straining too hard. It's a little bit, I don't know. Toilet humor in LTW, but yeah, it just seems really off to me, that segment. There was a few other bits on this show, but I don't want to talk too much about Impact because it was an okay show. It wasn't particularly interesting regardless. The one that was interesting, however, was they released a pay-per-view this week, and it was Global Impact Wrestling. It was a show in Japan that featured a mix of Wrestle 1 stars and TNA wrestlers as well. So it was it was almost like a bragging right, sort of like a faction against faction, company against company sort of thing, that they're going against each other.
Fair enough.
I've got to say that the Raw wrestling action here was incredible. It really was. The wrestling, fantastic. It was awesome to watch a show, because I'm not going to blow smoke up people's asses and say, oh yeah, I watch so much independent wrestling and I know exactly what's going on in Japan. I don't actually watch that much Japanese wrestling, but the only thing I can say, every single time that I watch their wrestling, I'm just captivated. It's brilliant. It's so flawless. It's fantastic.
And it flows.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing I think about Japanese wrestling is that there's large segments of the match where there's no fan response, but as soon as you do something they like, they applaud you. It's all respectful.
Yeah.
They're watching intently at what you're doing. It's not that they're bored. All of them are watching with keen eyes. It's just that they're not going to jump up and do random chants here and there. It's a different wrestling crowd, and I can appreciate that. The placement, though, of the pay-per-view, and I'm talking to some of the matches. The placement of this, though, is really awkward. So they actually promoted this pay-per-view on Impact, right? So the champion is Lashley. The tag team champions are the Wolves, which is fine. And you've got the X Division champion is Sanada, right? So that's what's happening at the moment. This show was taped months ago, the Global Impact Wrestling show, so it was released only recently now. So the champions are Magnus is the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. You've got to remember, he lost that to EY, who then in turn lost it to Lashley.
Yeah, it's a while back.
Yeah. The X Division champion is Austin Aries. He actually lost the belt to Sanada at this event. The tag team champions were the Wolves, but they lost it in this match to the Bromans. So it came off really weird, because obviously this was taped months ago. So it just came off really odd that they would promote this now. I don't know whether they had a deal with Wrestle 1 that they couldn't air it until maybe Wrestle 1 were happy with them airing it. But it just comes off really odd that they're releasing this now, of all time. Like, why couldn't they have released this when this happened? It would have been the ideal time. It would have explained a lot, I imagine. Now, I just think that was a bit odd that they did this with the Joker's Wild event, but it wasn't as much as a problem, the Joker's Wild event, because there was no titles on the line. It was just a random pay-per-view with people put together in tag teams. Yeah, it's like, it doesn't really matter if they recorded that 1 month and released it 10 months later. It doesn't have any impact on any storylines. It's fine. You could do that, but because this titles actually changed hands, just very, very odd about that. But matches that are brilliant. Talking of the Austin Aries Sanada match, fantastic. Really good stuff. That's the best match I've seen Sanada in.
I was going to say, I can imagine that to be a good match.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is that I have said before that since I've seen Sanada in TNA, I haven't seen that much from him. He's supposed to be Wrestle 1's next huge star. But I can definitely see where the appeal is in this match. He was good. He was good in this match. Very, very good. It works well with Austin Aries as well. They had a match, a 6-man tag with Rob Terry, the Great Muta himself, who is the creator of Wrestle One, and along these lines, and they wrestled with Samoa Joe and stuff like that. So that was a good match. You can tell why it's a 6-man tag match. Even though Great Muta's getting on a bit, he's like a Ricky Steamboat. He's still in fantastic shape, and he gets around that ring really, really well. So you've got to give him props for that. The one little bit of a match was a little bit of a letdown was Abyss. He wrestled basically the Wrestle One equivalent of him, just without masks and stuff like that. But you can tell his face was pretty mangled up from the hardcore matches that this Japanese wrestler had. I can't remember his name. Apologies for that. But the match itself was a bit crap. I'm following a trend with Abyss recently. It's either really sort of quick hardcore moments, or it's nothing, and I'm kind of over that. If you're gonna do it, then you need to make it into an epic match and build up to that. But unfortunately, that wasn't it. It was just pretty much, okay, let's get an excuse to get tacks out so I can body slam you onto them, and I'm not really interested in that personally. So, if I had to pick between Global Impact Wrestling show or the Impact show, I would obviously pick the Japanese show. It was fantastic. It was really good. No BS, just wrestling. So, there you are. That's the best wrestling I've seen this week. So, I would heavily recommend it if anyone could see it. Yeah. So, TNA this week. They're doing alright. They're doing okay. I'm still going to watch them. Thankfully,
haven't lost you yet.
They changed their ways, even though that Brittany segment was pretty awful, pretty bad. But still good wrestling to be had, so you can't argue too much. We'll move on to our Raw show this week. This Raw is from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And they spouted Bret Hart as the special guest to the event. And another note was that the Authority are off for the week. I don't know whether they're on vacation or anything along those lines, but they weren't around. They weren't referenced, so it wasn't the swerve. They didn't come out at the end and fool everyone. They just weren't there.
Just no show. Yeah.
So, kicking on to this show, we're getting to our Raw review. Before we start about the Raw review, what we do is that we review every segment of Raw, so even the little crappy segments normally in the middle, we review them. And also, if you want to follow Raw whenever Matt gets through watching it, because we watch it on separate times of the week, then you should probably follow our Twitter account, because he posts up there stuff about things that happen throughout the week. So I just wanted to plug that quickly here in Michael Cole style. And the Twitter handle is @TalkWrestlePod. So join us on there. We're getting great support on the podcast. So it'd be great if that could transfer onto our Twitter account, and you can ask us any questions and get some pretty cool insight to stuff that's happening in the future there. So moving on to the show. So the Authority obviously not there. They can't kick off the show, so that's great. I think that actually stops like a trend of like something like 7 or 8 shows have actually kicked off.
Yeah.
It's been a long.
Wars that have just not involved. I mean, we don't want SmackDown, but like for actual Wars with no show of the Authority, it's quite odd.
Quite rare. Yeah, that would be the case. But Reigns kicked off the show, which was cool. The crowd were good here. They really were throughout the show. They were good, and they were of the Montreal kind. So some of their chants were done in French or Quebecese, I guess. I don't know how you say it.
I don't know. Quebecian sounds like something out like Star Wars. Or something.
It sounds like a Pokemon, personally, but there we are.
Yeah, all that.
Capture the Quebecian. So yeah, that's there we are. But what I say is that when you promise Bret Hart to a Montreal crowd, any Canadian crowd, you're going to get a good response. So, the good timing of his booking was good. Reigns cut a decent promo here. It was all right. He says he doesn't know why Triple H put him in a match for the title. I would say that he's probably asking the same question we all are. Not that he's obviously worthy of it, but just in storyline it seems a bit odd.
Considering it's like Roman Reigns will be nowhere near that title. He's in the Fatal 4-Way.
Just seems a bit odd. He says that maybe he thinks that he can neutralize Cena, which he can.
Yep.
And maybe he thinks that Kane can neutralize Reigns, which he can't. And then a Cena sucks chant starts up, which brings the best part of the promo. And I hope Reigns has enough freedom in his promos to do this. But he went off the cuff and says Cena does indeed suck when Roman Reigns is in the house. And I thought that was a brilliant stuff. Really big pop. One of the biggest pops of the night. That. And why not? Just because Reigns is a face, Why not have him think that he's better than Cena? That's what I want. No, too many of these people coming out, it's like the divas sometimes. Oh, she's such a great champion. I hope I can beat her. No, you want to beat her and you need to think that you're better than her. That's the only way. Austin didn't congratulate The Rock when he was champion. He was like, okay, I'm going to beat you up and take it off from you. That's the way it was.
Yeah, that's it.
So
I like it. Oh, well and good. You've got to defend it now.
Yeah, against me, and I'm better than you. I'm going to stun you and take you for the belt. It doesn't matter about face and heel. The only thing that you have to do with Reigns is make sure he doesn't break the rules. As long as he beats people clean, he can say whatever he wants to people. That's fine. So then, this brings out the big red monster, who I can't take seriously. I don't know why I can't take him seriously. They haven't done well enough for bringing him back out as this uncontrollable beast because they've just messed around with him too much. I'm not with it. He has the same mediocre appeal that he's had sometimes throughout his career. And whenever they try and make him a big thing, it's like the Big Show. They try and make him a big thing every now and then they forget about him and then wonder why people don't take them seriously next time he's Flavor of the Month. And I just feel that's the same thing now. Reigns tells him that he's pretty much Orton's bitch. Yep. Yes. Curse word. But bitches seems to be that WWE's
swearing.
It's their new cuss word. It's their new go-to cuss word. Apparently bitch is okay to say.
Yeah, it seems to be the one that they're allowed to say bitch in PG.
You could say bitch on the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. You said a lot of worse stuff, like putting tongues on buttholes. I think was probably our worst one. But anyway, moving forward from a shameless pay-per-view plot. A brawl ensues, so the pair of them start fighting each other, and poor Fit Finlay, he tries to stop Roman Reigns, to intervene, and he gets an absolutely brutal spear from Reigns. He was not holding back Reigns with Finlay. Guess you can't really. I mean, Finlay's he's a manly man. He can take a good spear. That's fine. So yeah, he gave him a hell of a spear. There was a few other guys at the back, from the agents and stuff coming out trying to separate these two guys. JBL say, let them fight. And that was the only thing that I could agree with JBL for the majority of the show. He was terrible, but we'll get into that. So I actually thought this was alright. I thought it was good. I thought Reigns was okay. Look, Reigns? No, Reigns, there we go.
You mean Raymond Rones?
Yeah. Everybody loves Raymond Rones. That's it. Yeah, there you go. So I thought it was good. I thought Reigns was good, and if he goes off the cuff like that every now and then I think he's getting better. He just needs to get. His confidence isn't an issue. He just needs to have more time in the mic, and he'll get better and better and better, and that's fine. But the only thing about this is that it's just killing time for a match that we know is just killing time. They much rather SummerSlam be next, I think, than having to fill Battleground up as an event.
Yeah, it's definitely sort of coming across that way.
Yeah. This Fatal 4-Way is going to be a time waster, and that's the only unfortunate thing about it.
Same as the Battle Royale as well.
Well, at least we get a new champion out of that. We know, it could be a few other people, but with this title match, Cena's going to win. He's going to go to SummerSlam. He's going to lose to Lesnar. So
yeah,
I mean, I'm fine with him losing to Lesnar. It just means in the meantime we've got a lot of generic WWE booking. Unfortunately.
Yeah, completely.
So the first match of the night, trying to live up to their opening match at the pay-per-view, the Wyatts against the Usos in a non-title match. I thought this was a good match. It really was. I'm not going to take away. There is a few things I have to say negative about this match. I did enjoy it.
Finish?
I want to say this. I thought the finish was a little bit weird. Because for a guy that got double super kicked, he soon got back into the ring and did Harper. Looking miraculously recovering from that. And he gets the win with his spinning clothesline. But yeah, he doesn't look like he brushed off the double super kick, even though he's been pinned from a single super kick by one of these Usos beforehand. I can remember he was pinned from a single super kick.
Yep.
So there is that to think of. Also, as well, I hope that these guys can mix up a bit because they seem far too dependent on doing dives out of the ring for the big pop. They do this a lot. The Wyatts and Usos, and it's only because they've had a few matches with each other now that I'm starting to call it out a little bit. It's a little bit, okay, here's the dive out of the ring spot. It's okay, but they need to just fix it up a little bit, especially if they're going to go for another big match. They could easily just do another the same and it'll be fine, but it's not going to be as good as what I think they can do, shall we say.
I think it's safe to say, because I think when they actually had the titles on the line, that was an amazing match.
Oh, that was one of the best tag team matches we've had.
And so now we're just like, and it's a rematch because it was really good. So we don't need a rematch, but it is a rematch nevertheless.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Now, I do think they're going to have another title match against each other, probably on the next pay-per-view, and then the Wyatts will win. I firmly believe they will be the tag champions anyway. The actual ending of this match, they kind of did a twist here that, oh, wait, they pinned the wrong Uso, but the match is already over. The bad side of being an identical twin, I suppose.
But it's the fact that the Usos have been around for long enough, and now they're pulling out the wrong brother card.
Yeah. They used to do this every week with the Bellas. It actually seems a bit funny that they've only done this now with the Usos. I don't think they've ever made any reference.
The exact opposite of twin magic.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe the Bellas need to teach them a few of their tricks.
I mean,
to make
I can sort of understand it, because originally they had it was like Jay had the little name tattooed across his chest, but now that they've got full sort of tribal sleeves and over the chest, it hides it.
Yeah.
It's like sort of it. It's just like, well, what side of the face is his face paint on? I think that's pretty much the only difference.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Unless it's anything like Goldust and it just melts away on a long match and you've just got no gold left. But yeah, I'm looking forward to these guys wrestling again. I just think that if they do a lot of the stuff that they've already done, it will be a good match. It just won't be as good as it can be. So, but I'm guessing you really enjoyed this match as an opener.
I did enjoy this match as an opener. Yeah. I think it served its purpose.
For a lot of Raws that we get that have like BS curtain jerkers, I'll take this any day. Let's just say that. The amount of times that we've watched and we reviewed it on this podcast. We've watched Raw and we've gone through loads and loads of matches. It's like the 7th match on the night. And we're like, please give us a match of the night, and then it happens. But to have a really good match to kick us off certainly takes.
I can't pick match of the night for tonight, but obviously we'll talk about that later.
There wasn't any that stuck their neck out that far, but there was some pretty good ones, I'd say. So, Michael Cole on commentary. Awful week for commentary. We're going to reference this as we go through. But anyway, they reminded us of the free preview to the WWE Network. And the reason I reference this little segment is because I always want to warn our fans when they're watching Raw, get ready, you're going to get a lot more WWE Network plugs. And you're going to get just lots more going forward. I can guarantee you this. You're going to get trailers, you're going to get this is what's trending. I know they're already doing it now, but I expect it to get worse. So, which is all good and fair. I'd take the free preview if I can't, but it's only for America. So I think WWE, they need to get their asses in gear. If they really want the network to get a lot more money, then they just need to get this stuff launched in other regions of the world, and be a world wrestling
sorted out.
Yeah. Don't, if you want to call yourself American Wrestling Entertainment, that's fine, but, you're supposed to be a World Wrestling Entertainment. I just get a little bit dicked at that sometimes. I don't mind them always doing their business in America, that's where the money is. If you did too much in England, the kind of the whole thing would wear off, so I'm not too much of an issue with that. But, yeah, if you're going to call yourself that, you really have to... you're leaving it a long time for everyone else to get onto this fantastic network that you're talking about.
World Wrestling, it's like... American wrestling. So.
Exactly, yeah. So, moving forward, we have a little segment with Randy Orton and Kane, who are backstage, chitty wagging, shall we say. Rollins comes in with his golden briefcase, which I actually quite like that briefcase design, actually. Even though it's just gold.
I like gold.
Yeah, it's cool. I just know the red and blue briefcases, I don't know, just... It's cool to have a single one nowadays. Yeah. But he reminds them that if they win the belt at the pay-per-view, he'll think twice about cashing in on them. And Orton says that he's starting to hate Rollins. And Kane says, well, I'm starting to hate you. And Orton seems to sense he seems genuinely hurt. They must have been really good friends.
But Kane...
Yeah. I think maybe we need to call in Dr. Shelby for Kane and Orton, because Orton seemed genuinely hurt by this. They must have been hanging around for a while, Orton and Kane, and maybe Orton thought that their friendship was a bit too much. And feel for the guy, feel for the Viper, shall we say?
That's it.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do? Just like, but why?
They're obviously teasing a little bit of dissension with these guys, but they're gonna do that up until the pay-per-view. But it means nothing. They're gonna be on the same page, and you're gonna have Cena overcome them. They did this, if you remember, when when Bryan, when it was close to when they actually unified the titles, funny enough, with Cena involved as well, that they were teasing, oh, you're going to pick Cena, you're going to give all your resources to Cena, and then they still kept with Orton. They're just doing the same tease. It's the same thing. So
That's it.
first Divas match of the night. They can't hold a candle to the Knockouts Wrestling that I saw on that Global Impact Wrestling show. And that match had Gail Kim in it as well. So Gail Kim is Gail Kim is probably my favourite women's wrestler around at the moment. The quality is too good. So the women in this match could not hold a candle to her, Nikki Bella and Alicia Fox.
Oh God, no.
This was a hand tied behind your back match. As soon as the stip was announced, I knew exactly where this was going. I'm guessing you were exactly the same.
Yeah.
And anyone who didn't figure out where it was going and couldn't predict it,
shame on you.
Shame on you. Yeah, you need to go and watch a lot more wrestling, because you should be able to predict that by now. It's blatant as can be, really. So, as soon as obviously you know how this goes, I barely have to explain it, but I will. Nikki Bella gets herself a hand tied behind her back, and then Fox decides that she's going to make an absolute meal of not getting her hand tied up. Takes way too long.
Look how fun I am.
Yeah. The crowd were chanting boring, which I agree with them. And she proceeded to do the weakest beatdown I have ever seen. She basically gives her a bit of a beatdown. Sure, she whacks her head against the side, and that looks ferocious and stuff. And then she gets 2 beers from the outside the ring.
Oh yeah, not the beer.
This is the hilarious part of this promo. This is really, really funny. So she gets these 2 beers. You remember she's done this before with the sodas, and she spills them all over herself and her opponent, and makes her look like a fool. She smacks the 2 beers next to each other. These are tiny cans, by the way. One of them slips out of her hand, goes flying out of the ring. And then she tries to douse Nikki Bella with what's the remnants of the other can in her hand, and proceeds to get none of it on Nikki Bella. So Nikki Bella's looking at her as if there's what?
It's like, I don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah, exactly. And then you think, okay, Fox is just going to go back to beating her up. This is going to get more physical. And then she just leaves. So Nikki Bella's just sitting in the ring, kind of with a forlorn look on her face, just kind of wondering what happened. It was really, really bad. If you're going to do a beatdown segment, do a beatdown segment. Just go all out. And
don't pussyfoot around with it.
The image of Fox trying to stone cold it up and failing miserably will be in my thoughts for a very long time. Fox 316 is not exactly going to be trending anytime soon, I imagine. He has to take a few lessons from Mr. Stone Cold for dousing people in beer. But that was quite funny. I did laugh quite a bit at that. So, moving on anyway. I don't exactly want to be spending too much time talking about Nikki Bella and Alicia Fox. There is a limit to how good that conversation can be. Rusev Crush against RVD. We get usual promo from Lana. This time directed at Canada. She didn't really get that much time off to do any sort of promo before RVD comes out. Now, the thing is, right, you know how this goes, right? Rusev against RVD, you kind of know where this is going. RVD basically gets fed to Rusev. There was a bit of a match between them. Got a bit of offense, RVD.
Nah. Yeah, kind of.
Not as much as Big E did, but still got a little bit of offense on. The one thing I would say, if RVD is being fed to Rusev, it makes me think that maybe he's on the brink of taking another break quite soon. He's been around for a couple of months now, so you could probably expect him now, if they're letting him job to people, that they're probably going to take him back off TV and give him another break. That's what I would say. It was a longer match than most of Rusev's. It was fine. It was okay.
As far as Rusev matches go,
yeah, it was on one of the better sides of the Rusev collection. There was no Swagger interruption. There was a brief video promo from Zeb Coulter. Nothing particularly noteworthy. But the reason, obviously, that we know Swagger didn't interrupt at the end is because, one, there's 2 reasons, both as important as the other. One, he has legal troubles in Canada, so he can't actually get in the country, so he wouldn't be able to do a run-in because he can't actually step foot on Canadian soil. I think this is due to his Weed the People incident that he had I don't know, could it be a DOI or DUI? I know he's had a few issues like that as well. And the second one, even if he was there, I wouldn't waste the uber American pop outside of America. You know.
Oh yeah, it'd just be pointless.
Yeah, it would be a bit pointless. So, you know, tease it for another week, and then I don't know how long they're in Canada, and they don't normally do 2 of the same shows in Canada. They normally come straight back over to the USA, and then you can go back to getting the big American pops against Rusev. There's no point in wasting it in Canada. No offense to Canada, but it's the same thing. Like if someone's bad mouthing Canada for 6 months, and then a US guy comes out to fight him, or or they do the pop in the US, it just isn't really the same, is it? So
doesn't work out.
No. Dean Ambrose versus Randy Orton.
Yeah.
This was probably one of the longest matches on this show. It was a good one though. It was much to a pace that suits Orton. I actually realised, I don't know if you realised this while watching this match, but Orton hasn't been in many singles matches on Raw for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
He's been involved in a lot of team stuff with, obviously with the Shield, as part of Evolution, and he's been in a lot of matches with multiple people in them for, the belt and stuff like that, and
yeah.
So it's been a while since we've actually seen Orton have a lengthy match on Raw. Ambrose is still selling the shoulder injury from about a month ago. We praised him selling it then, but this length of him selling it has got to be something quite special. He's still doing it okay. I just think it's kind of time to put it to bed. Don't need to have your faces injured all of the time. It's not. Don't have to do that. And then something which is a bit of a contentious issue, and I wonder what you think about this personally. But Orton gets the clean win against a very, very hot Ambrose. What's your thoughts on him getting that clean win? Because I've got a few things. I can understand why they did it. I just don't agree with it.
It doesn't sit very well on with heel Orton.
Yeah, I think.
But no, I'm not a fan. I didn't like it.
No,
I was expecting an attack.
Yeah, maybe.
But
Kane
I guess
come
Ambrose
down
is now out of the Kane story, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I would say so. That obviously the reason why they did this. WWE's thinking is beyond this as well. Ambrose isn't in the main event, so Orton needs the win to look strong.
Yeah.
I would argue Orton doesn't need a win. Ambrose does need a win. And a win against Orton would have been huge for his credibility. I don't think he should be jobbing for Orton. If you want him to get a win, get him a win over someone like Kofi. Just do that. That's fine. But I just don't know why they did it against Ambrose. It was a good match, though. I will say that it was a bit slow paced at times, but matches don't always have to be.
Well, it picked up at times as well, so it was sort of a real to and fro sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I like it sometimes when you've got two people trying to tell a story in the ring of them trying to wrestle at a certain tempo. Orton always wants to wrestle slowly, and Ambrose obviously goes up fast bursts. So in terms of storytelling, I may have enjoyed this more than the generic wrestling fan, so to speak. I worry that they're going to keep doing this with Ambrose because he's just not at that main event part. Or maybe we're just worrying ourselves. Maybe we're just being a little bit too paranoid. I just don't want a really hot Ambrose to be wasted and him lose lots of matches against guys that are currently in the main event. I don't think you need to do that. There's a lot of guys there. You've got a very big roster against guys that are never going to make it up to that level. Get them to job to Orton. Ambrose has a chance.
Yeah, you don't need to sort of kill the momentum of a guy.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's killed his momentum. It certainly hasn't helped.
No, it definitely wasn't a momentum-killing match. It was just unnecessary.
Yeah, it was a little bit unnecessary. You could have had anyone else in this match and have them lose. It's fine. But hopefully they don't make a habit of this and Ambrose goes back to winning matches and making Rollins' life hell, which he did again this week, which was fun. If you've seen one Renee Young and John Cena backstage segment, then you've seen them all.
Yep.
That's what I would say.
It's safe to say.
And they have another one now. So pretty much it's blah, 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 I'm Cena, blah, 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 hustle, loyalty, respect, blah, 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 I'm going to win. And Reigns comes in for a little bit of a tidbit, nothing really extra special. Just says that Cena, we need a lot of luck to stop him winning the belt. And at least there was a little bit of interest in here because Reigns was involved. I've seen enough Cena and Renee Young segments to last me a lifetime. It doesn't have the same effect as a Lillian Garcia and The Rock, really. The segments aren't really put on.
It will not compete with the People's Strudel.
No People's Strudel for Cena. Although I imagine that he wishes he could rise to those sort of heights and get that sort of comedic response, but he's too protected, Cena. He's been too safe for too long.
Just like, play safe, play it safe.
He genuinely thinks he's funny. That's the problem with Cena. And sometimes he is. Sometimes he makes me laugh, but there could be months that go by when I just cringe at the things that the man says, and this is part of that as well. So whenever there's Renee Young and John Cena now, I just tend just to look away a little bit and just... I could pretty much do my notes early on that, and I won't miss anything. You know, I'm not going to miss anything there, so... biggest condemnation of that particular pairing. But it's not really Renee Young's fault. Anyway, moving forward. As we said... Right, Cena and Renee Young, you know, we know what's going to happen. When Ziggler and Del Rio come out, we know what's going to happen. We don't exactly like it, but we know what's going to happen. I'll be glad when Del Rio leaves WWE, so Ziggler just doesn't have to job to him anymore. He's getting a bit old.
I know.
Why?
It's really disappointing as well.
Yeah.
It's just like, but why does he still have to do this?
Yeah. It's been well documented. Del Rio doesn't want to be in WWE. As soon as his contract goes, he's quite likely he's going off. He doesn't need to be in WWE to make a lot of money, so he's happy to leave. So why would you then have a guy who's a stalwart who gets a massive response every week that you see Ziggler come out? He gets a massive, massive response. Why would you waste that?
But no. So.
Fandango's on commentary during this. He says that some days he likes blondes, some days he likes brunettes. I can only imagine that if there wasn't a headset around King, he would probably be agreeing with him.
Yep.
King has got a very dicey track record with women. One thing I will say here is that Fandango is damn near impossible to hear in what he was talking. He was in his baritone voice and
it's really low, kind of
if me and Matt were to do a podcast, I doubt that we'd have almost 100 views on our podcast every week because people wouldn't understand a damn thing we're saying. Yeah, it was pretty much like that. It was, imagine if me and Matt actually did a podcast like that. It would be horrendous. You know, we would want to listen to 2 hours of that because in 5 minutes you get bored of it, and that's exactly what we did here. It's just he wasn't very fun. They're going along with these this thing here that Fandango still hasn't chosen which girl he wants, and apparently Summer Rae still wants to be with him, and so does Layla. It's just it's boring. There's a bit with them later on.
Yeah.
But anyway, he gets up and he starts gyrating on the. This is Fandango. Starts gyrating up on the announcer's table. This distracts Ziggler because we know Ziggler is a big fan of erotic dancing.
Of men dancing. Yeah.
Exactly. And then he gets beaten by Del Rio. One note I said here is that with this whole segment, as if we didn't already have problems trying to convince the average person that wrestling isn't gay, and then we have this segment coming up, which is
yeah, I know.
Especially with JBL, who looks like you poured acid into his eyes. He just doesn't want.
Just hated the whole thing.
Close to him. So yeah, Del Rio gets the win again and again for no reason. There's no reason for him to win. Even if he wasn't going, there's nothing that they're doing with Del Rio. There's no point to it. So there you are. My new favourite pairing in WWE. I don't know why. I'm just strangely drawn to these guys. And I said to Matt, for some reason, I want to do a podcast and just act like these dudes just randomly. Stardust and Goldust. I kind of don't know still how to review these guys. I must be honest. I like them, I do, but I can understand why people would just be like, what the hell is going on?
It is very much that sort of case, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, Cody Rhodes is positively just halfway mesmerizing, halfway scary as his new persona. Goldust says there is no one as bizarre as them, and I think that's the understatement of the century. I think that could go for a whole Slammy award, that particular segment.
What, the bullshit flag of the year?
Yes. And then I think Stardust gets distracted by what he thinks is the cosmic rays, and then Goldust puts his wig on, and then they kind of make their noises at each other. I don't really know. Just watch this segment. It's weird. It's weird, but it's entertaining. I don't know why.
The only thing I find quite most bizarre when it comes to regards to like Stardust is like, since when did he think he was like Hannibal?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. They didn't wrestle on this show, but apparently Goldust reckons that they're going to the top, and they're going to be interesting no matter what. And there's reasons why this works, and Willow and TNA didn't. It's because they're doing this in tongue-in-cheek, and with Willow, he was 100% convinced that people were going to take that seriously. That and the fact that he already tried Willow beforehand, and people booed him out of the building, but we won't get into that.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of TNA news there. Willow's gone. He's gone back to being Jeff Hardy, so...
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's done. I did say TNA were in the middle of righting a lot of wrongs, and that was a major wrong on their roster, so...
Yeah.
Moving forward, I wish I didn't have to. So, another couple, not obviously in the same fashion, but Layla confronts Fandango backstage, saying, why did you go out on my own, and why are you acting like, are you going out there because Ziggler and Summer Rae kissed last week? And Fandango, yet again, he's so low in his voice, I couldn't even hear a word that he was saying. And they share a tender moment, but he's also looking at Summer Rae with passionate eyes. Yeah. You know what's ironic, right? I'm sure if a really, really sad fan wrote really bad romance WWE fan fiction, this is probably what it would be.
It's terrifyingly close, isn't it?
It is very, very close, yeah. I don't know. It's really, really bad. This whole storyline, it makes Summer Rae look like such a moron. It really does. Like, why? Why would you do it? It's just making both of them look silly. It really is. I don't know. Maybe they're going for the other woman angle where they both team up against Fandango at the end and kick his ass. I don't know. Maybe it's the only way I can get some satisfaction out of this, I guess.
It did happen.
Yeah. Oh, already?
SmackDown.
Oh, okay. Well, they'll probably do that again on Raw because they don't do these things on SmackDown and forget them on Raw. So, interesting part. I really don't want to spend too much time about Fandango and his lady problems. Really low voice. Yeah. The King comes out and he reminds us all just what happened the last time he was in Montreal. He had his heart attack. They made a lot of reference to this all the way through. Sometimes not particularly in a great fashion, but still they referenced it. He said that he was very happy to be back, and mentioned a lot of people that.
He's sort of like really happy the fact that he could actually make it back.
Yeah. Now that happened quite a while back now, and I firmly believe that him having his heart attack, King. Was ironically, and I mean this, I don't want anything bad to this guy, and people are going to take this really badly, but I think that's probably one of the best things for his career, because there's no way that WWE are going to get rid of him this recently after like something that bad happening to him on air. But his commentary is really, really bad, just general. His commentary is bad. I don't think WWE want to get rid of him, but it obviously solidified the fact that we can't do that now anyway. But that is another interesting topic to talk about. Would King be on commentary, or how long would he been on commentary if he hadn't had his heart attack? That's quite an interesting thing to talk about. But regardless, I'm glad he did. So, he's healthy after all this, and he looks good, shall we say. King, I hope nothing like that happens again. But he brings out Bret Hart, which obviously gets the monster pop of the night.
Oh yeah,
the guy is an icon, as now more than ever than he was in Canada. Back in the day, when you look at Bret Hart in his prime, man, he was treated as if he was the cure for cancer when he used to come out in Canada. He really did. And, it has dimmed a bit because obviously he's not in the prevalence as much now. But, man, you looking back then, and he was treated as if he was the second incarnation of the Canadian Jesus, He's just awesome, the pop he gets. So he says that if Hart were to have one more match, if he were to do it one more time, he would have it in Montreal. And then he actually, this is the first time, a lot of time... yeah, of course. One thing I will say is that, like, a lot of times when Bret will talk, I'm a big fan of Bret, but a lot of times that he will talk, he almost looks like he doesn't really care. He's not really that into it. I think it's especially considering he gave that sort of, like, Triple H versus The Undertaker was 4 out of 10. Yeah.
And then as a result, those memes went everywhere. Yeah. Just like Bret doesn't care. Brett thinks it's 4 out of 10.
But a lot of times,
it's sort of like a stigma that followed him for a while.
Yeah, it did. I mean, a lot of the time it looks like he doesn't. He's just kind of spouting off a lot of stuff. You could see in his eyes and his facial expressions that he's not really into it. When he was actually talking here, he actually genuinely seemed up for it, and more than he does in recent memory. You actually look at him doing this little mini promo. He only had a few lines. But you look at him saying that, and then how he looked when the NXT Takeover event when he was in Natalia's corner. I mean, he looked like he might as well just be
give
eating
a
hot
shit.
dog.
Not really.
Yeah, he looked like he might as well have been doing the paper crossword. You know, he just didn't really care why he was there. But you know, this very least he seemed very up for this, and that's fair enough. But this prompted out the mentally retarded Damien Sandow. Pretty much. Best thing I can explain as Sandow. He comes out dressed as Brett, and he's got the pink and black attack stuff, the jacket as well. I say, if you're going to do this WWE, why not bring back Charlie Haas and have a dress off against these guys? Because he's basically stealing Charlie Haas's whole thing where you dress up like other wrestlers.
That's it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, or that, or he's like scarily like one step closer. He's like one big bump to the head, a step away from Eugene.
Yeah, I think that's probably where it's going. Sandow is ruined. I'm just going to say that now. He's done.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Any chance of him ever being any sort of prevalent or being a legitimate competitor is gone. He's dead. That's the only thing I could say about his future. It's really, really sad, to be honest. We say this every week, but it gets sadder every week. That's the general truth.
Fortunately.
He talks some usual garbage. You know this by now if you've watched it. He's acting as if he's Bret Hart. So he's like, oh, I screwed myself, and my hero, Shawn
My
Michaels.
biggest regret. And all this stuff.
All this other garbage. Bret gives him a good slog, which knocks him so far out of the ring. Sheamus comes down, and they're going to have a match. I would say this segment is a monumental waste of Bret Hart. You could have done a way lot more with him. I personally would have liked to have had a very lengthy promo segment with him and Roman Reigns, but alas, we can't have that. We have to have this bullshit. But still, I guess they're looking now. This not instead of I guess their general thought, creative, was how could we best use Hart? It was we've got Bret Hart, we can make Damien Sandow dress up like him. That was their best thought, which is just really, really sad, really. So anyway, Sheamus against Sandow. The first time I've been genuinely interested in Sheamus kicking anyone in the ring, so that's fine.
The thing I didn't like is the fact that like Sheamus came down and that was it. That was Brett's thunder gone.
Yeah, exactly.
It just wave him away, and as Brett's like, "Oh, I'll just walk out now, shall I?"
Yeah,
oh, okay.
it's such a waste. It really is. So we're going to play a game. We're going to play a game of how wrong are the commentators.
Okay.
This week they were very wrong and just stupid, because King says before this match starts and as they're getting ready to tussle up, shall we say, King says this glorious line. He says that Sandow is capable of winning any title at any time.
One.
I don't know how King has any credibility as an announcer, especially after he starts spouting out garbage like that. Honestly, it boggles me. It really does.
Fault number one.
Fault number one. There we go. There's a lot of this show, and this isn't even the majority of the ones that I picked up on. There is a few more. Oh, don't you worry. There's a few more. So Sheamus gets the easy win. JBL just spouts out loads of Montreal screwjob quips. They're all awful. You could probably add another 1,000 onto that rating that you've got on there. Just, Brett screwed Brett. And it was just, shut up, JBL. Really? You had another really bad line that you dropped later on. Just the commentary were awful this week. They really were. Anyway, Renee Young with The Miz. I never thought I'd be more interested to see The Miz than John Cena, but in terms of a segment here. But I'm much more interested to see him have an interview with Renee Young than Mr. Cena. Here's an interesting bit here. He reads a letter from his fan, his number one fan, shall we say. Maybe his only fan. We don't know how many fans really Miz has.
Oh yeah, like loads.
His fan named as Johnny Russo, and apparently the general consensus here that this is a dig at Vince Russo, which I'm completely fine with. I think the guy's a moron, but there we go. Any guy that said anyone from the South can't get over because of the accent, just shut up, go away. So yeah, the whole letter is about, I want you to beat up Chris Jericho and get back to wrestling at WrestleMania.
Was he like that sweaty, that greasy, tattooed rock star?
Yeah. And I realised how accurate this is. If this really is a dig at Vince Russo, only Vince Russo would book The Miz in a headline Mania spot ever again.
Yeah.
Miz says that his face is too valuable to WWE, and it's worth millions. I didn't say anything, but he's going along the lines that his face is the moneymaker and you can't damage it. It's too valuable.
Yeah.
It's along these lines. Basically dashing Cody Rhodes, essentially.
Yep.
It wasn't a Cena segment with Renee Young, and I'll give it that. And the actual dig at Vince Russo, at very least, made me laugh a little bit. That's fine. I like a little bit of inside references. And I can imagine a few of the creative they do the same as us. We just laugh at.
They're sort of chuckling away to themselves, like, yeah, it's good.
But you know what? I shared a little bit of a chuckle with them, so why not? This led to the actual match. So obviously last week we had The Miz being interrupted by Jericho. We had the match this time. I know they did wrestle each other on SmackDown, but of course anything good on SmackDown they put on Raw, and that's the point of us not reviewing SmackDown, because there's no point. So Miz has a little bit of extra intro to his entrance. I don't know whether you caught this.
Yeah, he's got that sort of like the following preview.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, it reminds me of Rock when he came back as Hollywood Rock, but it's not nearly as good as The Rock's entrance. You look at Rock's entrance when he was a heel, and he had that really cool slow entrance and really long intro. Just go back. That's one of my favourite entrances of any wrestler in all time. Honestly, I love the entrance that The Rock had when he was heel and he came back as Hollywood Rock. And it's just such a long intro, and when he comes out, it's such a slow version of his theme. Such a really good heel theme. But it reminds me in terms of the visual of that anyway, until the awesome kicks in, and then we're used to the rest of it. Do you remember that Hollywood Rock gimmick?
I do remember Hollywood Rock.
Oh,
yes.
I love Hollywood Rock. So good.
So happy with that.
And the whole skits that he had with Hurricane Helms and Hamburglar, so we say.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. I remember as a kid just eating that shit up. It's hard to think that's 12 years ago. Madness.
Shocking.
So, one thing I will say, it is awesome to see Jericho back in the ring again. The guy just does not miss a beat. He could be out of the ring for decades. They can keep him in cryogenic stasis. He'll come back as a skeleton and he'll still wrestle as good as he ever did. I'm assured of that.
It sounds like it is a proper, like, just like, is it just like normal? Yeah, it's just like normal.
Yeah, it's just
good.
Didn't even he's not even a little bit slower. In fact, he may be a bit faster.
Listening to his podcast, and he says it's like, for him it's about 27 years now or something. It's like,
oh, wow.
If it's not like riding the bike for him now, it's never going to be.
He's never going to be. The guy is genuinely talented when it comes to wrestling, and you don't get that good by not putting any hours in training. And the guy is in fantastic shape every single time he comes back. He doesn't come in half-assed, a little bit like Batista did, and he was tanked all the time. Jericho has never come back and looked tanked. He's always looked good. So you have to give him that. Miz as well. You know what? As we're giving all this props to Jericho, Miz hasn't seen a wrestling ring in a long time, and he did his fair share. He was all right here.
That's it. He was just as good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just we're just big old Jericho fans. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
maybe a little biased.
Yeah, but you know what? We calls it as we sees it, shall we say?
That's it.
So that's good. Yeah, Miz was all right. This guy's put on a really good match, I have to say. I was very, very entertained by this match. At times, very, very quick. They pulled out each other's submissions. They had a lot of wrestling, in terms of like finisher reversals and kickouts and stuff. Really good match, except for when Miz decided at the end it was far too precious, his face, to be damaged. Yep. So any time that Jericho got a chance to attack his face, he did, which obviously led to the victory because he basically kicked him and then put him in the walls of Jericho, and Miz tapped out very, very quickly. But good match with these guys. Be interesting to see where Miz goes from here. I doubt it'll be anything extra special. But as we know, Jericho isn't back to save the Miz. He's back to save Bray Wyatt. And after the match goes off, Bray Wyatt comes up on the Titantron. He cuts an excellent promo. Him and Jericho have a bit of a back and forth that is just too awesome for me to really explain what they say. You have to watch it for yourself. It really gets you amped up for these guys having a match against each other. It really does.
It's a proper good promo.
Yeah. And that normally we get Bray Wyatt because the person in the ring isn't as good at delivering promos as him. But now he's got someone that is, and now you can have back and forth with Jericho, and it's going to be awesome, and the fans are going to be totally into it. And every time that Bray comes out, there's more and more phones lighting up that crowd. It's such a great visual.
That's it.
It's something really unique. I think that this whole rivalry between Jericho and Wyatt is going to be just real fun. It's going to be really, really fun. And they're going to have great matches. I really think so. But anyway, Jericho says that, oh, I see that you're alone. But obviously Jericho hasn't been around. We all know that Wyatt is very rarely ever
Wyatt is never alone.
Yeah. The Wyatt family come and flank their leader. And the segment ends a little bit abruptly with them just staring at each other a little bit. It's a little bit odd ending. But still, I'm expecting a lot of good segments ending in a phenomenal match with these guys. A show-stealing match, I think, at the pay-per-view.
Definitely.
I can see these guys turning on big time.
Easily capable.
It makes me kind of makes me kind of hope that they have a semi-ish good match at Battlegrounds, but they go into SummerSlam, maybe have like a real good stip match with each other. They could do so much. They really could. It's exciting. It really is exciting to see what they can do. And
this definitely goes with the fact that sort of like there was a lot of other people saying that, oh, Bray Wyatt lost to Cena in their match. It's like, but it doesn't matter. Like, Wyatt's still strong.
He is still strong.
He hasn't lost anything as a result of it.
That's nothing to do with what Cena did. I agree with what they're saying to an extent.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Wyatt is that well over, and his character is that unique, that even losing to Cena isn't going to stop him for too long. And like you said, Cena ain't going to do the job for him, so you're damn sure someone is going to for him. It's as we said last week, it's like Jericho's going to save him. He's going to give him the win that he needs, and that's fine. Which he's done for a lot of people, and I think when you look at he actually lost to Fandango to give Fandango the perfect debut. Man,
that got wasted.
But man, if he's going to lose to anyone, man, Bray, that would be awesome to set up Bray. You know, that's awesome. And funny enough, Jericho probably hasn't won a pay-per-view match in years, but we don't dog at him as much as Ryback, but he doesn't need to win, does he? He comes in, does what he needs to, and he leaves. It's fine, and he's always entertaining when he's there. You get what you know what you're going to get with Jericho. That's high quality wrestling, good promos, and he's going to do something positive for the wrestlers that he works with. So
that's it. He's there to push a career.
Exactly, yeah. So moving forward from that awesome stuff to Paige and AJ Lee, the new Divas champion, against the Funkadactyls in a tag team match.
Yeah, that one.
Paige is all smiles. She even introduced AJ Lee here. She gave a rousing reception to AJ Lee coming down. I was a little bit shocked to see this going this way, especially with how bratty Paige was during the segment last week. But it does seem like they're going to go for the full sense of security, and Paige will eventually snap, and she's going to attack AJ Lee probably the week before the pay-per-view, and then she'll turn heel. I think it's the only way for her. Although I say that, man, we thought that Paige was going to go a different route, and then she got booked absolutely horrendously as a champion, one of the worst Divas champions.
Yeah. So we'll leave that.
We'll be talking about this 6 months from now, and Paige is still licking AJ Lee's boots, and we'll be like, so yeah, any day now. I firmly
something
believe that.
Something good will happen.
Yeah, hopefully, anyway. So during this match, Cameron refuses to tag in, which suits me fine. I really don't want to see her wrestle, but still, leaves her teammate in the dry. And then she decides miraculously, you know what, I will tag in without holding the corner rope and walking all the way to the other side, which I just held in my hands. Because they do this thing now with WWE that you have to be holding the rope on the side of the thing, but no, apparently Cameron is resolved.
Not these days.
From said rules. Probably because she doesn't understand the rules, but, you know, okay. But it doesn't matter. She gets immediately page-turned and loses straight away within seconds of getting into the ring. I was just waiting for this Paige just to snap, as we said, but nah, she's fine. They're going to run this buddy-buddy storyline. I expect the turn will probably be just before the pay-per-view. That's what I think, anyway. Gives the final go-home, and you're like, oh, wait, they're really going to kill each other. That's how I would book it, anyway. If you're going to do this, that's the way I would do it. Yeah. Funkadactyls, though, they fight after the match. There's a big clash between them. A meeting of titans, some would say. No, I can't really sell that, can I?
No,
not even JR commentary could sell this. It's just garbage, really. There's going to be a feud between them. I don't want to see it, but I guess it's needed to break them up.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. I just hope it doesn't turn into like a long set of Naomi and Cameron matches, and hopefully this sets up Cameron to go and be someone's manager, someone's like eye candy that no one likes. And you know what? That's exactly where she should be.
And I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, and I don't want to see her in the ring. She's not good enough. It's like Eva Marie. Her and Eva Marie don't have any respect for wrestling. They don't want to do it. It's just something of what they have to do in order to be on TV each week. So don't let them do it. Just, you know what? Just take them out of the ring. I don't need to see them wrestle. Cesaro comes out. He seems to be spouting new gear every time he comes out. Now he's got a black and like red trimmed coat. You know, I don't know what he's going for here. He just seems to be appearing in new gear every week. Heyman has his usual BS, to be honest. Not really entertaining, shall we say, Heyman on this show. Cesaro takes the mic off him for a rare occurrence and reminds them that they're in Quebec and decides to insult them in their native language, which is fine for there, but it doesn't really give him any heat for the actual general fans that are watching on TV, but, you know, that's fine, I guess. But Kofi, anyway, so... Everyone knows I'm not a big fan of Kofi, but still, he starts the match with some aggression, which kind of made me laugh because it's very rare that you see Kofi...
Kofi was angry over what happened last week.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
And then he gets to get a cheap win. He gets a roll-up win against Cesaro, which leads to another assault from Cesaro. But pretty much, it's essentially exactly the same as what we had, you know, last time these guys locked up. Now, when Cesaro, before teaming up with Heyman, he was well on his way to becoming a much bigger star than he is now. But now he's locked in a feud with Kofi, and Big E came out for the save at the end. So, not really thrilling stuff for Cesaro, shall we say? And
I think he's going to get a better story out of Big E than he will Kofi.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I mean, if you look at all the stories going around, oh, you know, he's eventually going to break off with Heyman. He's going to have a match with Brock Lesnar. That doesn't seem to be happening anytime in the horizon.
Yeah, all the potentials that there's been.
He's been locked in limbo for a very long time, Cesaro, with nothing going on for him. I'm not that interested. It's stuff that he's doing at the moment, and it's a shame, because in the ring, there's very few guys that can match what he can do, and it's just a bit of a shame. You've got the best mouthpiece in the company, and you can't do anything with him. Very, very sad. But yeah, as you said there, you hit the hammer on the nail. That a Big E versus Cesaro feud is something I can buy way more into than a Kofi and Cesaro feud. I'm not interested in seeing Kofi and Cesaro anymore. It's dull. Wasn't a good match, this one, anyway. So
it was take it or leave it. It was average.
It was average. I wouldn't go and buy a DVD for it, shall we say.
No.
Backstage, Rollins is speaking to Cena. He's going face-to-face with the C Nation commander, the Chain Gang guy. Remember when he was wearing that Chain Gang garbage?
Yeah.
He says that tonight's match will show that Rollins is the best in WWE. And Cena replies by saying that Rollins is full of crap, which he says all the time. And then also says that he's good. So, okay. This is kind of garbage stuff. They're just kind of talking to each other, blowing each other's trumpet every now and saying that, oh, you know, what you're going to do and all this stuff. And yeah, just building up their main event match, which is a match I can get into, I guess. Cena against Rollins could be good. You can have Rollins bump all over the place and Cena take a few bumps and stuff like that.
It has to be.
Yeah, Cena's not exactly going to oversell Rollins in that match, but we'll get into that match later on anyway. Interesting stuff here. Inspirational, some would say. Bo Dallas against El Torito. JBL drops another bombshell, adding to his horrific night on commentary, that he's shocked that El Torito's tail has grown back. He's dumbfounded.
Ooh. Not stitching.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I think that JBL genuinely believed that maybe that he had grown it back, that he was some sort of organism that can grow tails. You know, what's those things
Something?
The pets that you can get, that you can chop off their stuff and they grow back. What are they called again? I can't remember. But you know what I'm talking about, though. You can get certain lizards that, like, you obviously you wouldn't chop off their legs. I'm not telling you to do that, but like if they for some reason like their limbs fall off or whatever, something like that, they can actually regrow them back, and it only takes like a couple of weeks for them to do it. I've seen it happen before. It's quite interesting. But apparently El Torito is such a thing. So there we are.
He is one such beast.
He is one such beast. So Torito has a few nut shots on Dallas, all very funny, and then Dallas decides he snaps a little bit, throws one of the El Matadores into the steps, the other one wasn't there for some reason, and then he decides that he's just going to just deal with Torito, slams him, and pins him. Thankfully, that El Torito is not the one to stop the streak of Bo Dallas, the inspirational Bo Dallas.
That would be shocking.
This whole thing was garbage for anything that El Torito was doing, but I tell you what, Bo was pretty entertaining, especially at the end of this match when he's running around doing his victory lap. El Torito is just getting up after obviously getting the shit kicked out of him a little bit, and then he knocks over El Torito, bangs into him, not even looking at him, and then keeps running around. I thought that was quite funny.
It's like, oops. Oh well. Yeah.
And Bo Dallas he doesn't even stop to acknowledge that he's knocked him over, just keeps going. He's now, I think, was it 10 and Bo or 11 and Bo?
14 and Bo.
14 and Bo. Wow. He's going to get up to Boberg's, record maybe. So. Yeah, Bo Dallas he's starting to show me a little bit more of his disingenuous side, and he needs to do that more in the coming weeks. People need to see the side that he's not actually this inspirational guy, that he's just he's going to do whatever he needs to win a match, but he's going to spout all this other stuff. That's what he was in NXT, and it worked really, really well. Now is the time that people know his gimmick enough that you can start doing that. That's fine. So, I guess, shame on WWE for making me enjoy a little person get beaten up. Shame on them.
Yeah, naughty WWE.
Naughty
Make
WWE.
me feel bad on that.
Yeah, exactly. My morality is called into question, which oftentimes my sanity was called into question during a few of these segments, and with a lot of these stuff that these just morons on commentary were saying. An advert for the Monday Night Wars documentary airs. Now, the reason I added this, sometimes with these adverts, we don't add them on, but unless I've got a reason to talk about them, because obviously they're not really segments, but it airs with the tagline that it's never before been aired, and then in little words, on the WWE network. The reason being is because this was actually aired ages ago, years ago, as a DVD release.
Yeah, I do remember this one. It wasn't like a straight to DVD release.
Yeah, exactly. It was one of the DVDs that they built up a few years ago. I think it was like 2006, 2007, maybe 2008, I'm not sure, around about the original. But it's been out for a very, very long time, shall we say. And obviously they were spouting up, and then obviously in little words, it's never been aired before, and then in little words on the WWE network. They're trying to make it seem exclusive. But I believe I've already seen it, so I'm not exactly that interested in watching it again. It's still good stuff.
I'd still watch it again.
Yeah, still good stuff, but I'm just not that. I wouldn't go out of my way. It's not exactly a huge exclusive like the Ultimate Warrior documentary was, which I had to, go a weird way of watching. But that's something I had to. I was more inclined to do that, and try to find a way to watch that. But this, I'm not that much. I've already seen it, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. The main event of the night. So Cena has a habit now. I spotted this, I don't know about this, but on his entrance, since he won the belts and he's a 15-time champion, he holds up his fingers to signal how many titles he's won.
Yeah, 51.
He shows 6 fingers. He's supposed to be saying 1 and 5, I think, but the problem is he does them the wrong way round, so he does the 5 and the 1. So he's saying that he's won 51 championships or 6 championships.
That's how I take it.
It's really, really odd, and I hope
think
he
it's
stops
just with
doing
his entrance I don't understand. It's just like, so what have you done? Just done the washing up or something? Because it's like his hustle loyalty is like the tea towel.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Maybe don't know. Maybe Nikki Bella keeps him busy. Washing stuff in their.
Nikki Bella ain't his bitch.
Yeah, exactly. She gets him to work, shall we say? Domesticated Mr. Cena, the 15-time dishwashing extraordinaire, shall we say? But yeah, this is really odd. I just watched it. And I was like, is he saying that he's won 51 titles?
Yeah. Or it's just like 5-1.
In some parallel universe, Cena has won 51 world championships.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's terrifying.
In a world where everyone's given up on
dude, just give it 5 years and it probably will happen.
Yeah, if he keeps on going, who knows? Maybe he might get to 51. Maybe that's his ultimate goal to get to 51 world championships.
I am John Cena and I am the one in 51 and 1.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. Right. Here's another thing, right? So even more stuff, right? During this match, King drops another bullshit bombshell on us anyway.
There we go. You got there then.
I got there in the end. So he says, well, everyone keeps saying, what if Rollins beats Cena? But what if Cena beats Rollins? Well, isn't that the normal thing? Yeah, and Cena normally beats everyone. And I think it's really stupid that King still beats this drum of Cena being the underdog. It's impossible for Cena to win, yet he wins every single match that
Cena
you
doesn't
did.
lose.
He hasn't been the underdog for at the very least the last 6 years. At very least, probably even more than that. And yet they still pout this. I can't see how Cena can win this, and how is he still in this match? Yet you've seen him in much longer matches and winning these.
I was going to say, go back. You seem to have forgotten the 60-minute Iron Man match for a start.
Yeah,
just go back and watch that. Remind yourself that's how Cena does it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the character of Cena could be put on a steamroller and he'd still kick it out too. And I'm not joking with that. It's just...
Oh yeah.
So the actual match, it was okay, but it didn't last that long. I was watching the end of like how long the rest of the show was, and it was like 10 minutes long, and they were making their entrances. So obviously it wasn't meant to be that long.
Yeah,
it was alright for as long as it lasted. Kane and Orton came in for the beatdown for Cena. Reigns comes in for the save. To beat them both down, and then Rollins belts the pair of them with the briefcase. This is obviously teasing the cash in, which won't happen for a while. We know that. Ambrose comes out to stop the chance, but you can expect almost on a weekly basis you're going to have Rollins have a moment where he thinks he's going to cash in, and then obviously doesn't.
It's just like do you remember the old when they first turned up and there's Dean Ambrose with the nope.
Yeah.
So there's a meme going around with Seth Rollins I'm going to cash it in, and there's just that nope.
And he put the brakes on this cash in anyway, and it was ending much like last week, really. To be honest, very very reminiscent to it, except for the fact that instead of just Reigns standing tall, it's Cena, and they're both raising each other's hand in victory. But Cena's getting.
The thing I quite like is the fact that Cena's actually, you could see it in his face that sort of he's getting a bigger cheer than me.
Yeah. And he will do. He will do. Because, it's going to come a point where Reigns is going to take that mantle. And I can tell you now, there's going to be people that boo him the same way that they boo Cena, if they book him in the same way, which I think they will. But at the moment, Reigns is the fresh face. He's the guy that everyone wants. He's the next big thing. So... yeah, you've got all the kids that are cheering for Cena. They're also cheering with them for Reigns, and with all the guys cheering for Reigns because they don't want to cheer for Cena. So yeah, he's going to get a lot more bit of cheers. But they're still going to spout Cena. Cena isn't going away. He's probably going to be around for the next 4 or 5 years, I'd say. I'm not over exaggerating. I really do believe that. Which is a shame if they honestly hold Reigns back from being the top guy for that length of time. Just doesn't seem right. But so that's the show, guys. All in all, a week that's highlighted for absolutely fucking atrocious commentary. The 3 of them on there should be ashamed of themselves. Now, Cole wasn't nearly as bad as the other 2, but he still was pretty bad, and JBL in particular was absolutely
just
atrocious.
Unnecessary.
Yeah. Now, we often praise JBL sometimes because he has good weeks, but there are weeks that he is worse than drinking poison. He's fucking awful. He really is, and he was.
And unfortunately, this was one of the weeks for him. Especially, I get sick of him going on about El Torito.
Yeah, and it's just like
I just get sick of El Torito, but
all the garbage that you were saying about when Damien Sandow was out as well. Just come on, just no. This just doesn't work. And King was really bad here as well. He was awful. He's awful more times than not, but especially awful this week with his usual WWE fed BS about Cena's still the underdog and all this other crap.
No. Why do you not understand this?
Yeah. So I think this show overall was entirely forgettable, but the standout sections pretty much revolved around Jericho and Wyatt. I thought that was brilliant.
I thought we had some good matches. I mean, the opening tag match. I wouldn't even say Orton Ambrose was a bad match.
It wasn't a bad match. It was fine. It was good. I just think that the only thing that this show will be remembered for, in general, down the weeks, is the segment between Jericho and Wyatt. I think that's the only thing that will be remembered for. But I'm not going to turn my nose up at this show. It had some decent wrestling to be had. Not fantastic. We're not saying it was like, it's a 5-star Raw. All the wrestling was awesome. I still don't really have any particular match I would like to point my finger at and say, okay, definitely go out and see that one. But they're all okay. Yeah. It was fine. It was all right. I don't know.
Some better than others.
Some better than others, obviously. But we still had a lot of garbage on this show. When you've got all the Fandango stuff, you've got Ziggler jobbing to Del Rio, you've got Bo Dallas and the El Torito stuff, which Bo Dallas was fun, but the whole El Torito and JBL just annoyances. Funkadactyls. There's a lot of reasons why you might not want to watch Raw, and I only got round to watching Raw yesterday, and we're recording this on a Saturday, so that's like 5 days.
Yeah, I think I actually finished watching it last night.
Yeah, that was the same.
So yeah, probably.
Because as good as last week was, and last week was one of the best Raws they've had in months, and we say that with absolutely no underestimation. It was very, very good last week, but this week was just it was a bit lackluster. And the only reason I kind of saw it coming, because with a Raw that good, they very, very rarely do two very, very good Raws, and it's a mid pay-per-view Raw. We know this by now. The Raw leading up to a pay-per-view and heading out of a pay-per-view will 9 times out of 10 be the best one of that month. So that's the way it goes.
When is Battleground?
So you got about 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like a great event to me, to be honest.
No.
Looking very, very, very dull, shall we say? But SummerSlam should be good. But we'll get into the Raws going forward. We'll give our predictions when it eventually comes up. We still have a few weeks at very least. It's not next week. So, anything else that you want to cover from Raw before we move forward?
Raw, no.
Nah, I think we covered it in great length, talking about our Fandango,
Fandango likes to do nothing all day.
Yeah. In the comments, leave us a comment of anything that you would like us to say in our Fandango voices. Who knows, we might... if in the future, if we ever actually do a Superstar Spotlight on Fandango, we just have to do it all in that voice.
That's it.
We promise now. So, Santino Marella, obviously retired from professional wrestling this week, so we're doing our Superstar Spotlight on the guy. He's got a few interesting controversies that I know that, Matt, you don't actually know, so this will be very interesting, right?
Okay.
So overall, let's talk about Santino Marella in terms of his character in WWE. He didn't spend barely any time outside WWE. I mean, barely any time. He pretty much spent his entire wrestling career inside the company, which is very rare for anyone. Yeah, I say for anyone inside WWE, apart from a few people, of course. He is a 2-time Intercontinental Champion, a 2-time US Champion, and a 1-time Tag Champion with Vladimir Kozlov. We'll also talk about their pairing.
That's it. I was just actually about to ask, who was he Tag Champion with?
Yeah.
It was Vladimir Kozlov.
Vladimir Kozlov, or Coleslaw, as I think my wife called him a few times. Yep. Anyway. Or people like to call Rusev 1.0, but I think that's really bad. I think Rusev's way better than Kozlov. But anyway, so he retired this week on learning he had a third really bad neck injury, and it's ruled him out. And as we said earlier on in the podcast, we do agree. I think it's the right time to bow out. If you got a bad neck injury, just bow out. That's fine. No issue with that. The earliest WWE moment worth talking about with him, who was in OVW, obviously learning the ins and outs of wrestling. We all know the name Jim Cornette. He was a booker and founder of OVW back in that time.
Yep.
Now, this is the time where the Boogeyman was in OVW as well. So, the Boogeyman in a segment in OVW, this is what happened, okay? The Boogeyman comes out, and there's a few other people in the ring, apart from Santino, who's obviously wrestling under a different name at that point. Yep. And they all act being scared, and they all run out of the ring, but Santino no-sells it because they... so Cornette didn't tell him that this was happening, so Marella didn't know how to respond to this. He didn't know whether he was supposed to sell it, whether he was supposed to fight him. He didn't know, so he did nothing. Okay. Now, obviously, that was the wrong thing to do, but this was also the wrong thing to do. Cornette blew a gasket. He shouted at Marella, and he also slapped him, put his hands on the guy. This ultimately led, as you can imagine, Matt, where did this go? To him being fired from WWE.
That's the loss of Cornette.
Yeah, and Cornette has not been seen with the company since. So that was the actual incident that led him to be released from the company. And I agree, you don't do that. You don't put your hands... Obviously, Cornette comes from a different era of wrestling where maybe you can get away with that shit. I still don't know. Maybe he did it because he thought Marella wouldn't do anything, and obviously he didn't. But I can't imagine Cornette back in his heyday slapping too many wrestlers and getting away with that and ass kicking, personally. But you just don't do that, especially in the modern day. You do that, you get fired, and that's exactly what he did. I think he's talked about it recently, or at least I heard someone in a podcast talking about him. I think it was him talking about it, but I don't know whether he regrets it or anything along those lines. But it's still the wrong thing to do. I think it was the wrong thing for Santino to no-sell it. If you're in the ring, you just got to go with it if you haven't been told. And it certainly was the wrong thing for Cornette to react.
That's it. I mean, sort of, if everyone's running, you run with them.
Yes, but
that's probably the safest outcome.
Yeah, I mean, you're in OVW, you're in a developmental. This is where you teach these guys these things. You don't do it by slapping them. So there you are. So that was a very controversial moment that led to quite an integral figure in OVW being moved out of the company. So that was quite interesting. He trained with OVW for a couple of years. And then he debuted as Santino Marella in an event in Italy. Mm-hmm. This was an event that they had over there. He was picked by the crowd, by Vince McMahon, to face Umaga for the Intercontinental Championship. And obviously, he was picked for a reason. He's been trained and everything. But everyone thought that he was a fan. It soon became aware, as soon as he took his top off and he had the figure of a wrestler, the other guys.
Like, oh, really?
Yeah, we knew the writing was on the wall there, where they were going with this. And Lashley comes out and helps Marella win the belt. He won the IC belt.
Yeah, because it starts off because it was just like a singles match, and then suddenly it was like, oh, he's actually pretty sort of threatening, because obviously he's not already a wrestler.
Yeah.
It's a no holds barred match. It's like, oh god, here we go. Out comes Lashley.
If you remember, this is with Vince with his bald stuff, and he had the top hat. Well, not the top hat, the bald hat on and everything.
Like the fedora sort of thing going on.
That's it, yeah. So Lashley lays out Umaga. Marella wins the belts, and that's his debut on the show, acting as an innocent fan. He really wasn't long until he dropped the belt back to Umaga, but it was his foot in the door, and it was his way to be on the roster, and I thought it was a pretty unique way to bring someone up, personally. I thought it was
great. Definitely, yeah.
And the segment was really hot. As soon as he said that he was from Italy, even though he isn't, he's actually from Canada, but as soon as he said that, he was over big time. Yeah, he really was. And as soon as he lost the belt back to Umaga, he became pretty much a comedy character, therefore, and obviously we know that was the majority of his career, therefore going out. He started kayfabe, dating Maria, who's now in Ring of Honor, doing very well there, I hear. He had an angle where he talked against the Condemned movie, with Steve Austin out there. He got stunned. That was the first time he ever used his broken English, Steve Austin or something like things. He uses what's the best angle that he ever did? Is broken English for? I can't exactly remember. He's done it a few times. Very funny.
I don't know. I quite enjoyed his tea party with Sheamus.
Yes.
Shamus.
Shamus, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's quite funny.
Oh, I see it. We have a cup of tea, Shamus.
Yeah. And then Maria, as you remember, WWE was still doing the Playboy shoots. I think this was one of the last ones that they actually ever did with Maria. And this led to, Santino was obviously not very happy with this. He was going mini heel at this point. He had a Playboy Bunnies match at WrestleMania. He got involved where, if you remember, Snoop Dogg clotheslined him, and then Snoop Dogg basically took his girls and went home,
So where my bitches?
Where my bitches? And then he went off up the ramp, and that was his. I think that was his first WrestleMania. So he wasn't actually involved in the match, but he was part of the big payoff. So that was something at least. In his first couple of years, from being stunned by Austin to being clotheslined by Snoop Dogg, it's still quite memorable, I guess. Then he teamed with Beth Phoenix to form the Glamorella partnership. They were on-screen couple. And he won his second IC title, and how they did this was they won a mixed tag title match where Beth Phoenix put her Divas title up for grabs, and because Beth Phoenix won the match, he won the belt off of who was the IC champion at the time. I can't remember who that was, but I remember this actually being quite rare. Not many times you have someone a match, the belts being passed over in this fashion, where it's like a double match where whoever wins the match gets both the belts.
The thing is, we're talking about a time where Raw, WWE used to love the concept of a mixed tag match.
Yes, and they had a lot of them back then. Can't remember when the last mixed tag match was actually around, but they could be a little bit clusterfuck. So I'm not too bothered about them.
When the last one was?
Yeah,
last week.
What was last week? Oh, yeah, of course.
Layla, Summer Rae, Ziggler.
Just the fact, though, that I couldn't remember is pretty much a testament to how good that match was.
Oh, yeah.
So, there we go. He went on then, if you remember, he was going to try and beat the Honky Tonk Man's longest ever Intercontinental title reign, he had the honker meter, if you remember, and every week would come out and the honker meter would go a little bit further. He never got anywhere close to it though. I think he got to like 11 weeks or 12 weeks, and then he got beaten by William Regal. So that was that whole deal done, and he never beat Honky Tonk Man's record, which to this day has never been beaten. So Honky Tonk could be happy about that. In the moments that I will remember him for are threefold, and two of them happened at a Royal Rumble. So, in the first Royal Rumble that he's remembered for is the 2009 Royal Rumble. He broke the Warlord's record for the shortest Rumble run with exactly 1.9 seconds.
Yes.
He was eliminated by Kane. They always use the clip of him at Royal Rumble, or they do this by the numbers at the Royal Rumble. There's always him going, I wasn't ready, and that was what that was from. After this shattering defeat, he went a bit mad and turned into Santino Marella. He went on to win.
Was that before Santino?
Yeah, it was.
Oh god, that looks such a good Mania.
He won the Miss WrestleMania tag. He went on to have like a hog pen match with Vicky Guerrero, if you remember.
I do.
It went on for a bit too long. I think that's probably what a lot of people remember.
Yeah.
And then when Donald Trump bought Raw, remember that storyline that he bought Raw off of Vince McMahon? He then fired Santino Marella. He got rid of the character, so he was gone. Obviously, Santino came back because he wasn't fired. Santino was. So there's that. That was when the partnership happened with Vladimir Kozlov. And as you said, they had a few very funny segments. One of them, I think, was the very funniest that they ever did. Was, I think, on a British Raw, no less. They had a tea party in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
And Kozlov was very funny. He didn't even have to say anything. It was all Santino, but Kozlov doing his odd looks and reactions here was very, very funny. It was one of the funniest things that he ever did. Marella was this segment, and it went on for quite a while actually. And they, for all the times that they had in the ring, they were mildly entertaining to sometimes very entertaining. I'd give him that. They were alright, and it was the best thing that Kozlov ever did in his term with WWE. When you think that Kozlov once was wrestling for the WWE title at SummerSlam against Triple H, it was quite full of grace for Mr. Kozlov, but still. But then they won the tag team belts from none other than the Nexus, from Slater and Gabriel.
Yeah.
Which was a bit of a shock. It wasn't very long lived though. As we know, Kozlov was released. And he dropped the belts. They dropped the belts just before, obviously, he was released. And we've never seen Kozlov ever since. So that's left Santino a little bit of a limbo. But he did go on then to be the very last man to be eliminated from the largest Royal Rumble to date, the 40-man Royal Rumble. If you remember, he was put under the bottom rope and he was out in the match for about 20 minutes, and Del Rio thought he won, but then Santino came back into the ring. The fans were going mental. They thought Santino was going to win, and then Del Rio does the reversal and wins. But it was quite a cool moment anyway. That they didn't sucker me in on that one. I knew Del Rio would do it. I knew Del Rio would win, but a lot of people were going mad for it. However, I have to admit,
it was a massive moment though, because you're just like, oh my,
yeah,
no, cool.
No. However, I will say they suckered me with Santino. There is one moment in his career I did think he was going to win the world title. Just a little slither of a moment, maybe half a second. And that was down to Bryan and Santino's acting, if nothing else. But he was in the Elimination Chamber match for the World Heavyweight title.
Yes. Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And he went on to be the last man to be eliminated from that also. But there was a moment where he hits the Cobra and Bryan sells it like $1 million. He goes down and he looks like he's out for the count. The fans are going mental. And then Bryan kicks out. And then as Santino's, can't believe that he's been kicked out, he gets put in the label lock or the no lock, whatever it was being called back at that time.
Yes. And he was in.
That's it, and he taps out. So for a small slither of a second, I thought, wow, they're actually going to do it, and they're actually going to put the belt on him. I should have known, but they were so good at doing this match, and Santino went all out for this match. It made you think just for a little bit, a small possibility that maybe they were going to do it, just a little bit. And I got very much into that ending of that match. So, and then after that, he had a few US title reigns instead. As we know now, there wasn't really much that he did. Really, it was just a few comedy segments here and there. And then he teamed up with Emma, as we know most recently. Didn't really do much for them until he had his third injury, and then he retired.
That was the end.
That was the end of him. So in terms of like an overall career, yeah, he was a comedy character. There's no running away from that. But I will remember that Royal Rumble and that Chamber moment quite, especially the Chamber moment, quite fondly. That it was a moment that the fans were going mental. You look back on that clip of him almost winning the belt, and the fans were going absolutely bonkers. They actually thought Santino was going to win, and they were all behind him. Santino chants going around the arena that night, and so just the idea of having Bryan beat Santino as being the last guy in there, everyone would have think that would be ridiculous, just bonkers, that wouldn't have been good at all, but it was really entertaining. So you have to give props to both of them for that, and obviously Santino. But yeah, comedy character, got a few titles under his belt, and I do expect him to probably be like either an on-screen figure or an agent. I think he's probably the perfect fit for an agent, and yeah, he wasn't 100% comedy gifted. I'm not saying that all of his comedy stuff was gold. Some of it was very cringeworthy. I'm not going to get away from that. But still, he wasn't afraid to go all out for a laugh. So you got to give him a little bit of props for that. It was a little bit like Vicky. Vicky wasn't afraid of making herself look like a fool just to make the show, if she thought the show would be better off for it. And Santino's in the same category. Everything that he did, he was 100% behind it, and you got to give him props for that at least. So, how will you remember Santino?
I think Santino probably sits really strong with me, actually, because it's just how funny it. Like, I just really enjoyed it, and it's just like the complete bullshit. Because then they were running with that whole sort of, but can we have a chat with Santino? Oh, no, just a minute, and just disappearing off camera, just like off came the wig, and just like, oh hello, you've still got the makeup on. Oh, 1 minute.
Yeah, it reminds me of sort of the comedy that you'd see from like the two Ronnies or something like that, which is something that sort of style of comedy.
The almost sort of like going back to slapstick.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And I remember that Tea Party segment that you had with Kozlov, just so funny because it looked like for a guy that wasn't having that much fun in his role, Kozlov, he was having a ball in that segment. He looked like he was laughing more than anyone. Like he was genuinely
completely. Sort of bought into it.
Yeah, he really did. He was 100% with that, and that was awesome. So, I think it's a shame for Santino. I think, honestly, I really do believe that if he hadn't got the injury, he would have kept going. But, when your body tells you to stop, you have to listen. Otherwise, you pay the price. And
that's it.
At least he's listened to that as well. So,
but at least we got a Cobra versus Socko out of it.
Oh, we did get a Cobra against Socko. I think what was that on? Was that a Royal Rumble? It was a
Rumble. Yeah.
So there was that as well. And for a lot of people that don't like Santino because his comedy wasn't very funny or the Cobra thing was just bad. Well, a lot of these same people were like, we need the Attitude Era back. Well, all this comedy was all over the Attitude Era, so I wouldn't, paint them with the same brush. Things have obviously moved on back then, and I completely agree that some of his segments were awful, but, you take it for what it is, Some of them were really good as well, and you have to take that.
Exactly. Some was gold.
That's it. Okay then, so is there anything else you want to talk about Santino? Have we gone through great length?
No, I'm pretty good with Santino.
I think we're pretty good. So this is the part where we do Uber plug. I think that's probably the best way to put it. We hope you guys did enjoy the podcast. We really do. Thank you guys for supporting us here. We're getting new subscribers every single week. Seems like every week, at very least once that I log on and we see new subscribers. It's really cool that you guys are going on to that.
Works out, yeah.
If you enjoyed the podcast, subscribe. That way you give us a little bit of a boost and you won't miss any of the future episodes. We're doing pretty well at the moment. We really thank you guys for your support. Follow us on @TalkWrestlePod. That's our official Twitter handle. And you can get any of the news on the podcast there. You can ask us any questions directly there. Or you can leave a comment below. Any questions that you'd like us to answer on the podcast directly.
Mm-hmm.
Or any future introductions that you may want me to use for Matt. And who knows, I may even use them.
So it's got to come through me first.
Yeah, that's the thing is if someone puts it in, it's really really good, then I'm going to use it. It just doesn't have the same effect, does it? So, but still, send them through. It'll be interesting. And we also uploaded an extra throughout the week. Almost forgot actually, an interview with me and my general wrestling fan source of knowledge, which happens to also be my wife. We had a little mini podcast for you guys to listen to. Did you get around to listening to that, Matt?
I haven't listened to it yet, no.
It's very interesting.
I've plugged it, but I haven't listened to it.
Some of the questions that we asked there is, who is the hottest WWE superstar on the roster? I know.
She picked Reigns, didn't she?
She. Well, you have to watch the podcast. You have to listen to the podcast to figure it out.
Dude, I know your wife.
Because she also picked the most sexiest female on the roster. So there you go. So,
okay.
And other questions like, what's the biggest difference for you for someone that liked Steve Austin to John Cena? What's the main differences and stuff like that. Some really good stuff and some good listening there. An hour long of very laid back podcasting for you guys to enjoy. Apart from that, guys, I think we're almost there. I think we're done. And,
I think that's about it, yeah.
The only thing is, I'll plug again for next week. We're obviously going to do that talk about whether Kenta, the new signing, or anyone genuinely from Japan can legitimately get over as a top star in WWE. Going to be a very interesting conversation because I'm going to do lots of research on the Japanese wrestlers that they had and whether they've had any chance, whether it was their fault they weren't booked correctly or if it was WWE's fault. Which sometimes it is. More often than not, it is WWE's fault. And whether some bookers like the likes of Vince Russo that they've had beforehand are legitimately against these guys getting over because they just don't believe they can. And I know Russo, for one, is definitely one of those people because you listen to him on that Austin
Russo is
podcast.
very much like a homegrown hero sort of guy.
Yeah, he firmly believes that anyone outside of America, and even some segments in America, like he says people from the deep south will never get over in wrestling. Like he firmly believes they'll never get over in wrestling, which is moronic, but that's what he believes. And he was one of the head writers for WWE and obviously the head writer for WCW. So interesting stuff that he was in that prevalence, and he believes that. And whether we believe some of the creative now, or maybe even Vince, Vince has the last say, whether he truly believes that these guys from other countries can fully get over, then he's John Cena's and Stone Cold's and Hulk Hogan's. So interesting stuff that we'll talk about. I'm actually really looking forward to that conversation. So
it's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one. So catch us next week. We'll go through the news. We'll review Raw. We'll give the TNA review. Hopefully we can catch NXT because NXT just seems to be the best of stuff.
I might try and just do a little double one, yeah.
Double
do a little
NXT.
binge on it.
Binge on NXT. That sounds good to me. And we've got that topic next week. So good stuff. Again, thank you guys for supporting the podcast. If you can share it all around, follow us on Facebook as we said. And apart from that, I am repeating myself, so I better end the podcast here. And thank you guys again for listening, and we'll catch you again next week.
See you soon.
Bye bye.